six minutes.
That's correct. And I too am grateful excuse me, for the opportunity this afternoon to speak to this motion, because it is timely, and I commend again the independent group for their creativity and good timing. I suppose there's hardly a motion that would be even more suited, because when one would have thought that any part of the architecture of any strong, confident, modern democracy would have already this kind of legislation embedded as part of its democratic infrastructure, we find ourselves really sort of fighting a rearguard action when it comes to addressing these issues. And to be fair, I have been a critic of Brendan Howland, the Minister for Reform, and the government in some regards. But to be fair, they have brought forward legislation in this area. But as Senator Barrett has pointed out, let's see it, let's have it. Time is of the essence, because we do know, unfortunately, that lobbying does work, because it has been proven in the House of the Oireachtas, none less, that there wouldn't be a child in this country playing rugby, kicking soccer, or playing a bit of GAA if it wasn't for the drinks companies. The whole thing would fall apart at the seams. And so we have been persuaded of that argument, and so we do know now that lobbying does work. Furthermore, we know that it is possible to make these arguments. Not only that you would make the argument about the beneficial use of sponsorship in the drinks industry, but you make it to the Oireachtas Communications Committee, no less. Why did that get before the Oireachtas Communications Committee? That was a public health issue. We allowed it to. It should never have been stripped out of the health schedule. That was a public health issue which was sidetracked and diverted for lobbying purposes, so as it would get through on a wink and a nod. So, of course, that master stroke by the drinks company, the drinks companies rather, pales in significance to the masterclass in lobbying, the piece de resistance, the lobbying coup of the century, the banking bailout, which is topical and timely that we're discussing that today. I mean, the thing is that the only thing I regret is that we don't have any tapes from the golf courses. We don't have any tapes from the race meetings, not just Galway. I don't think we should be just picking on Galway the whole time, where these decisions were actually made in the run-up to September 2009. Because that's where the decisions were made. Imagine we have tapes of the bankers discussing it, but we don't have tapes with them discussing it with the people who ultimately made the decision. And I'm not being politically partisan when I say that, but it's absurd to suggest that there is no record of any worth in the Department of Finance, apparently, or in the Taoiseach's office, that these lobbyists were inside the House. It's hard to believe. Now, to be fair, we don't want to tar everyone with the one brush. There are many people coming here in what would be loosely called lobbying. I mean, people come in to lobby about SNAs this week, home helps. We've had people in about, the side effects of narcolepsy, decent people, families representing people who have not been well represented by the state. We have people in here representing the elderly, who very often get the wrong end of the stick. So that too is lobbying. But that's not what we're discussing, I suppose. The spirit of the motion is about where we have people representing big business getting very close to government and to the cabinet of the day. And I, for one, resent this, because I thought naively, and Senator Thomas Byrne has referred to some things that you learn along the way. I thought that as elected TDs and as elected senators, we would have access, stupidly I thought, to the ministers of the day, to make points, to lobby, so to speak. But in fact, people that we don't know are inside the House as we speak, inside the room, inside the tent, and we don't even know who they are. And lobbyists come in all shapes and sizes and whatnot. I mean, like you say, you can't walk down the corridor here now. And I mean, I myself have been confronted for not attending the briefing stroke lobbying session. And how dare I, and I will pay the price down the road. So we have to ask ourselves the question, who is signing these people in? And on what basis is that access being given to government and to the legislature? I think that's a very dangerous process, and it should be curbed. We have a situation where we know that big business has managed to flex its muscle in the area of taxation. Again, no one welcomes job creation more than myself, or foreign direct investment. But it's been established now. It's now taken It's now taken a Tory Prime Minister in Britain to set the agenda to say that big corporations should pay their fair share of tax. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that we needed David Cameron to get us to do the right thing on taxation? I thought all along they were paying the 12.5%, but it turns out that they have ways and means around it. So, you know, we have to ask ourselves, you know, at the end of the day, you know, lobbyists are here for one purpose. It's to bend our ear, to twist our arm, or maybe to get us to look and take the blind eye and look the other way. And very often, they're doing it for the interest of big business. Now, I've no problem when someone walks in, to be honest, and said, you know, albeit, I don't want to draw the ire of Senator Crown, I represent the tobacco industry, and here's what I want to pitch to you. At least you see where they're coming from. You know what their angle is. The people I'm more concerned about are the vested interests, are the people with concealed interests, the people with conflicts of interest, who do not declare their position, and who in some instances are representing the public interest on state and public bodies, who are appointed by the government and are then doubling back in the door, in through the swing door down there, and going back up to the Minister's office and saying, here's what I'd like you to do. This is the policy we should pursue. But of course that policy represents in many instances and in some instances, and I'm not going to abuse the privilege of the House by citing them, but you know, we know who they are and there's cases emerging all the time, where they in turn are directors, shareholders and board members of other companies, very often not declared. I mean, and it's a legitimate position to be in business. It's a legitimate position to try and make money. It's a legitimate position to try and create jobs and to represent your position. But it's not a legitimate position to represent at one and to pretend that you can represent at once the public interest and the private commercial interest. And these people are in here lobbying and have access to cabinet and access to government on a daily and ongoing basis. So this motion is not before its time in many ways, and it is most timely this week. And to be fair, we often beat up on journalists and on the media here, and sometimes with good cause. But it's good to see finally a return to good old-fashioned investigative journalism, where people are wondering what's in the paper this morning. That's a good day. That's a good day for journalism, it's a good day for democracy, and it's a good day that finally this is now being flushed out into the open. And no one who has nothing to fear, no one who has nothing to hide, has nothing to fear. But I suppose it's a bit like the iceberg now, this one. I'd say we've only seen about 1/9 of it yet, and we haven't fully run up on the rocks yet. But
I'll ask you to conclude.
But I will hear like a thank you. But we do know that this terrible result of lobbying, as Senator Barrett has referred to in relation to gambling, these people gambled with the lives of the Irish public. Senator Mary Louise refers to it also. But these people gambled with our lives. 300,000 people have had to leave the country on account of it. 450,000 people are unemployed as a result of it. Many people have lost their homes, and others, unfortunately and tragically, have lost their lives. Lobbying is not a victimless pursuit. It's not a benign industry. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be curbed. It needs to be recorded at the very least. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.